Hello viewers, PMK94 here, and welcome to the showcase of my new build. It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time now, and just last week I finally put everything together. Now I was gonna waste your time with some exposition of stuff, but you know what, let's just screw that. Let's get straight into the benchmarks and specs. So starting off with the specs, as you can see, I got the Samsung 840 EVO. It is a 120 gig SSD. We got Windows 7 Professional, H100i CPU cooler, and we also got G.Skill 16 gigabytes of RAM with a 1 terabyte Western Digital hard drive, the MSI Z87 G45 Gaming Edition motherboard, and of course the Intel Core i7 4770K processor. And then in this last shot here, you can see I'm reusing my Sapphire HD 7850 graphics card along with my Corsair TX650 power supply. So the first thing I had to do was get all the old parts out of my new case back into the old case. So that didn't take too long. Afterwards, I started by taking everything apart, making sure everything was out of the way inside the case. Took the motherboard out of its box first. As stated, the MSI G45 Gaming Edition. So I got the RAM there, and here's the CPU. So CPU was obviously one of the first things that I installed. You can see it in the motherboard in that shot. I went with a pull configuration for the H100i because from what I've heard, it's easier to clean that way, not less performance than like push or anything, and I didn't have room for push-pull, so I just went with pull. Anyway, I installed the CPU before I did everything else, which I don't know if that was the best idea or not, but everything's working fine now, so anyway, after all that, I installed all my drives, got everything hooked up, and overall it took a while, but not too many issues along the way. Had to do a bit of cable management at the end here. Could have looked better, but could have looked worse. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a pretty simplified process. Here I got my graphics card, my capture card, and there's the money shot, I guess, at the end there. Yeah. So a bit of a fun fact here with crappy audio quality. Yeah, sorry, I'm lazy. Anyway, that was my first time ever installing a CPU, so I was kind of freaking out a bit, but yeah, everything's working just fine. In fact, this video is being edited on the new computer. First video that I'm doing that with, so everything's going fantastic. Something else I was going to say, I think. You know what? I don't remember. Let's just get back to the video. So I started off with the game benchmarks here. Now, obviously, since the major upgrade here for my old rig, aside from the motherboard and like everything else, was the CPU, there wasn't going to be too much of a difference, but there was still some difference in some games. But interestingly enough, the new processor did a bit worse in Metro here, for example. But overall, the game benchmarks, performance was largely the same. I did do some testing of a couple online games after this, though, and things were a lot smoother than they were before. So for these single-player games, not as much. I imagine with Shogun 2, though, being an RTS and a lot of units, it would probably get more CPU-intensive things going, as would Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion. I'm sure that would, but so these games didn't show much difference, but in non-recorded tests of like PlanetSide 2 and Mabinogi, oh man, things were so much smoother. So next up was synthetic benchmarks. Again, not too much of a difference. As you can see here, the i7 actually had a bit lower max FPS, but then it had higher average and minimum, so tiny bit better there, but again, not too much of a difference. But as we get into the 3D Mark tests, which you can see here, and I can't because I'm stupid with editing, man, the physics score just skyrocketed, which obviously should be expected considering I was upgrading from an FX 6100 processor going to the 4770K. For the previous game benchmarks and the Unigine benchmark, I did not test the CPU while it was overclocked. I did for 3D Mark though, which you can see here. I had it at 4.2 gigahertz, and this is the only test that's going to have it at 4.2, which I'll explain later once we get to the next set of benchmarks. But yeah, physics score just skyrocketed here, and the overclock also clearly helped a bit with that. But anyway, on to the next set of benchmarks. So what I did for these next benchmarks was I tested how long it took the new CPU to render some videos that I had made before, which are currently up on my channel. Haha, shameless plug. Anyway, so I tested that, and yeah, render speeds so much faster. As you can see, I downclocked the overclock to 4.1 gigahertz. I had a few stability issues with 4.2. I mean, yes, I could have probably just increased the voltage, but I just went ahead and downclocked it because I figured there wouldn't be that big of a difference in performance, and plus everything is working perfectly fine now. But anyway, as you can see, with the new processor plus the overclock, I pretty much doubled my render speeds. So I'm rendering in half the time now, and it is amazing. And obviously the time it takes to render certain video files is not the only benefit to a better processor. Like, I can do full screen previews with this now, like, just no problem. So that's pretty nice too. Or not full screen, full resolution, sorry. Which isn't really that relevant actually, because the preview window is so tiny. Which, yeah, I don't have a second monitor, that's sad. Yet, anyway, soon I will. But with that out of the way, let's get to the conclusion of this video. Alright, so there you go. Now that you've seen all of that, what do you guys think? And also, I have questions for you guys regarding future upgrades. First thing I'm probably going to do, new graphics cards. Or a new graphics card. I'm not going to do multiple. But anyway, for those of you who know all this tech stuff, which should be most of you since this video is also being posted somewhere else, but anyway, is it worth it to wait for AMD's next series of graphics cards, or should I just go for something NVIDIA? Honestly, I don't really care either way. I'm probably just going to check for price to performance and whatnot, but anyway, actually that's pretty much it. So, it's been PMK94. Hope you guys enjoyed the build, and I'm aware that my pictures were kind of crappy. A lot of them were, especially for that time lapse. But yeah, you know, at least you saw the build progress and stuff. But anyway, PMK94. See you guys in the next video.